So I'm going to bring in Jacob. Pronouns are he, him, from Vancouver. And he wants to talk about a plausible scientific argument for God. So, Jacob, are you hearing us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you outside or do you have us on speakerphone?
No, I'm using my earphones.
Okay, are you outside or something? There's a lot of wind noise.
How about this?
Way better. Way better.
Now. Yeah.
All right. So for me, it's just a plausible argument. I'm not saying it's 100% certain. So I just want to ask you guys, can energy be created?
Right now? No. That's first law of thermodynamics. Energy can't be created or destroyed.
Right. And do you agree that the universe contains a finite amount of energy?
I think so. Aaron, yeah?
Well, more than just finite, we seem to see what the value is, and within our measurement uncertainties, it looks to be about zero. There's about as much positive as there is negative energy, so the total energy of the universe seems to be zero.
Flat universe? Am I using that right in that context?
That's also related as well, yeah. Our universe seems to be very, very flat, and at least so far consistent with a measurement of no net energy, which means how much energy does the universe need to get started? Bupkis.
There you go.
Right, and because for any closed system, I think such as the universe, the total amount of energy remains constant over time due to the first law of thermodynamics. Right, and if the universe has a finite amount of energy and is subject to the first law of thermodynamics, then the total energy in the universe must have had a beginning, right?
No, you said
not at all.
The energy must have had a beginning? No, where are you getting that from?
Yes, if the universe has a finite amount of energy and is subject to the first law of thermodynamics, then the total energy in the universe must have had a beginning. I think that is, you can agree with me on that.
It just means that whatever amount of energy there was in the universe, it was always that amount. It doesn't mean it had a beginning. It means that any time you look, it's always going to be the same total. That's all that means.
Right, because if the total energy of the universe had a beginning, they must have an initial cause or reason for the universe existence and
do you wanna,
the transformation of energy.
Do you want to just say the Kalam Cosmological Argument, or do you want, like, why are we going this way around it? Like, why are we doing all this? You could just come out and say...
Yes, it's just using the first law of thermodynamics.
Right, but I'm asking why, because we're disagreeing with what you're saying, and it's very clear that you're just trying to make the Kalam Cosmological Argument. The energy had a beginning, and there can be no cause without something to cause it, or effect without a cause. Therefore, the universe had a cause, something beyond the universe, and that's God. That's where we're going, right? Like we all know that's where we're going. So
yeah,
like, you just want to get there, because like obviously we're going to disagree on how this works, and we have an actual physicist over here who's disagreeing on how this works. So rather than sitting here and parsing through energy, let's just get to the Kalam Cosmological Argument, because it sucks and we can talk about it.
I understand, because it's just impossible for something to exist on its own, considering that energy cannot be created. And I just want to mention the beginning of the Big Bang.
Hold on, that premise, I have to say, you got to justify that. Why can't something just exist indefinitely? Why does finite mean it can't exist forever? Especially when the value is zero. Why can't it just always be zero forever, no matter how far back in time you go? Why does that require anything? I mean, since we're talking about zero, nothing, you're saying nothing can't exist internally into the past?
It's just if otherwise, it would just create an infinite regress of causes. It would just, without the idea of a God.
Now you've gone back to the Kalam Cosmological Argument. So we basically wasted our time. This is the philosophical, cosmological, cosmological argument. And honestly, you're not going to get us very far, because do you think there is a smallest number?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
Well, I can answer the question. No, there isn't, because any number you give, I can take -1 and have one that's always smaller. So either numbers are illogical, or there's really no problem with just going back infinitely. There's nothing logically impossible about that.
I also hate the fact that you said that this would require an infinite regress when the most common argument against the Kalam cosmological argument that you're presenting is the infinite regress, saying, well, something had to create the energy in the universe, therefore that's God. Okay, what created God, and what created her, and what created her, and what created her? You have the same infinite regress. Exactly, unless you do special pleading and say every single thing needs a creator except God. She's magic and she doesn't need a creator. It's okay for her. She doesn't need it. And then when we say, actually, the universe doesn't need a creator, no, you can't do that. That's special pleading. You have to have a creator, and that's God, and she doesn't need a creator. It's just, dude, it's a boring argument, and I don't know why you're putting all this, science babble in it to try to talk about energy when, number one, we don't agree on what you're saying, and number two, what you're saying, like Aaron just brilliantly pointed out, is illogical.
No, I think it's the most plausible argument for God, since this is a scientific one. Even though it's cliche, we hear this almost every day. But if you come to think of it, the beginning of the Big Bang, right? Do you agree that it's a fluctuation of energy in the beginning of Big Bang? That's the reason why the universe is expanding right now.
The Big Bang is not the same thing as the beginning of the observable universe. The Big Bang is basically expressing what is happening after that point and the hot expansion after the earliest times of the universe that we can track back with our physics. And to that point, then our physics breaks down and we can't even say what's going on there. So saying it's an energy fluctuation, it goes beyond what we can actually say.
But what triggered? Could you tell me what specific energy that triggered?
It doesn't matter what you said. See, that's what I mean. It doesn't matter what Aaron said. None of it mattered. He could have given you a freaking college course on what the Big Bang is and how it works and how cosmic inflation works and how all these different things. It doesn't matter, because the next thing you were going to say is, well, what triggered it? What set it off? What happened before? As if it matters, and as if it's even a question that makes sense to ask. This is just the Kalam cosmological argument, except you're using words like matter and energy instead of words like cause and effect. It's the exact same argument. I wish you'd just be honest about it.
Yeah. You guys are scientists, right? And you know about this, that you know about the first law of thermodynamics better than me, right? But if you just come to think of it, the beginning should be powerful. It should be an omni-being, because for it to create an energy.
Why would we assume there's even a beginning?
And also, if the Big Bang is the beginning of all time and space, then what does it even mean to say before? What does it mean to say what happened before the concept of before had any meaning? In a time when time didn't exist, in a space that wasn't anywhere. What does any of that mean? I don't know how to ask the question that you're trying to ask. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because even if we agreed with you that the universe definitely had a finite beginning, why would you then say, well, there's a guy that lives out there? Because what is that? That doesn't make, you're making 1,000 assumptions here and then acting like they're just the natural way to think, that they're just given. And I don't get why you're cool with doing that.
It's just for me. It's just basic. It's just basic experience in life, right? A watch cannot exist without a watchmaker. If anything could not exist, come on. If you just come to think of it.
Yes, I've thought of it before. Who made your God?
God is not part of the reality.
I agree. God is not part of reality. Yes, I agree. Your God is not part of reality.
What I'm saying is, it's not part. It's not the reality that we perceive what reality is, but he's on a different realm.
No, it does nothing and does nothing detectable. That is the equivalent of non-existent. I'm sorry.
Yeah. How do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference between something that is undetectable and not part of reality and something that just doesn't exist?
I think that's because God made reality. He made reality, and
how How did she make reality? What are her qualifications?
Considering that I believe that it's logical to conclude that there is a beginning, there is a creator. I think because he's the
How
one who
does
made
one
everything.
create without time? Creation is
That's a good question.
If you're talking about creating, you're using a verb with tense. It has a time aspect.
Are you
How
seeing
can there
this?
be creation without time?
But we're talking about a powerful being here, right?
This is not a matter of power.
So-
This is talking about actual English sentences. How can you talk about something temporal if you're saying time doesn't exist? You are basically trying to talk about how do you fly further north of the North Pole. It's like, no, you've already gotten past that possibility. It doesn't even make sense to talk anymore in that way. And saying it's really powerful, that's why I can go north of the North Pole.
For me, that's my only explanation. It's not in our realm. It's on a different realm, which is outside space and time, as what you've said. So
Do you have any evidence of that outside realm existing?
Like my logical argument, I think is the one who
I
created
need to also
everything.
point out, you really didn't have a logical argument. We didn't have premises put in a valid form to get to a conclusion, and you had premises that we both vehemently disagreed with because they did not seem to actually match up with the way the words normally use, or our background knowledge, and there wasn't anything here that looked like a logical form. Honestly, this has been kind of scattershot. This is not an actual logic progression. I don't see anything like in Monas Tollens or anything on those sorts of logical forms. So if you want to say you have a logical argument, you're going to have to refigure that out and actually show premise 1, premise 2, conclusion.
Right, because it's in the first law of thermodynamics, which describes the conservation of energy, and the need for initial cause supports the idea of transcendent
No,
cause.
you just threw that in there. You
Let me
just assume
try it.
initial
Let me
cause.
try a different thing. Let's try a different thing really quick. Jacob, do you think that physicists understand the first law of thermodynamics pretty well?
Of course. Yeah.
Then why do you think that belief in a deity is so unbelievably low amongst physicists? Do you think they just don't understand it as well as you do?
But there are a lot of physicists that are theists, right?
But
correct me if I'm
a
wrong.
lot of them, the majority of them are not. And
I'm
these
not
are the
sure
people
about
who
that,
actually understand this stuff.
And there's actually been surveys of the various sciences and their level of theism. The most atheistic happen to be the psychologists and the sociologists because they basically know how weird humans are and they understand how religious concepts come about. Of the natural sciences, I think biologists are more atheistic than physicists, but it's majority physicists are atheists, and amongst the top level physicists or top level scientists, very atheistic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right. But I think it's just comes down to the complexity of the biological systems. I think it's impossible for it to evolve over time.
Do you
you've
have
been wrong about
anything...
that for 150 years.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing that I study now. Now we can look over to this side of the screen. Hi, I'm a biologist, and that's not true. We know how these things come about. They're totally natural processes. I do wonder, do you have any thoughts of your own that didn't come from Answers in Genesis? Because so far, that's all we've got is just the universe needs a universe maker, but God doesn't need a God maker. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. And then also, complexity of life can't evolve on its own, but God doesn't need to evolve. She doesn't need any of that. She can be as complex as she wants, and she doesn't have to evolve. It's just special pleading and regurgitating stuff from the Discovery Institute. It sucks.
Yeah, I think for me, I think you guys you just hate the idea of God, right? I believe you guys.
Are you serious? Are you really?
Yeah, I just believe because let me ask you this: if God, let's say hypothetically, if God is real, would you believe in Him?
Yes.
I believe in things that are evident.
Would you worship?
No.
Believe in Him. Would you worship Him?
I would not worship her. No.
At the very least, if God showed up, I'd have a
hate
lot
the
of
idea
questions.
of a God. just hate the idea of a god, because why wouldn't you worship? That is your
I don't
salvation,
hate the
right?
idea of a god. I hate the fact that all the arguments for God are so crappy and they're wasting our time as a species. That's what I hate. I
Holding
also
us
hate how
back,
people
that's the
use that
problem.
concept to reinforce their hatred of other people and then think that they have a God-given right to basically
Mhm.
so many terrible, terrible things that we could point to. And I do not want to list that out and spend the rest of the stream talking about the terrors of whether it be the Crusades, the modern epidemics against homosexuals, what's currently going on with trans youth, and all these things that are so often punctuated with people feeling that they have the moral high ground because they got themselves a book. And that's the sort of thing that, ticks me off. But the idea of a deistic God, the sort of thing I used to believe in, didn't hate that. It was the sort of thing I believed in, and then I reassessed the evidence. That's how it worked for me.
Yeah, I think you guys are just, you're trying to look at slavery, this genocide. I think when you talk about slavery, I think before that was not a bad thing. Before that was the culture before.
So first
You don't
off,
think
I didn't say
slavery was a
slavery,
bad thing?
and now you're going to do slavery apologetics. You can go fuck yourself right with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Slavery wasn't that
I just
bad in
wanna-
the past. Oh, you don't know shit then.
I just want to be very clear.
No,
You are saying that slavery was okay. It wasn't that bad. That's actually the hill you're going to die on now. That's the last word you're getting in.
But because if you come to think of it, if something today is not a sin, does that mean it won't be a sin in the future, or it won't be?
You might know better. But here's the thing. Do you think slavery is bad right now?
Yes.
So
Do you think
how
that
does it become
slavery-
good
oh, sorry, go
1,000
ahead.
years ago?
But I think it evolved to be.
There's no buts. Why is slavery good
yeah.
in any context? Okay, if slavery is bad, and we're saying right now, absolutely, it's bad, then say, well, 1,000 years ago, it suddenly switches to the good side of things. How does that work? How does morality become relative to culture if it's supposed to be absolutely wrong?
I don't know, but I think it's just the way it is. It was permitted by God, and I think
So
that
there you
was
go.
their culture
You're-
before.
Just the way it is.
That right there answers your other question. You asked why we wouldn't worship your God, because your God's a fucking monster that permits slavery at any time for any reason ever. That's a bad thing, and it doesn't mean if anybody ever says that slavery is even remotely okay, they are not worthy of worship. There's an answer to your question from before. I don't like her. I don't like your God. She's awful.
Yeah, that's just hating, right? Because why would you not worship someone that will bring you salvation?
Salvation from what
Apparently,
exactly?
he doesn't bring salvation to slaves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Salvation from what? What are we being saved from?
You're being from being brought to heaven, right? That is salvation.
I'm being saved from heaven?
Being brought to heaven, that is a salvation.
What's the opposite? What would happen if I wasn't saved and brought to heaven? Because salvation sounds like I'm being taken away from something bad.
You'll go to hell.
Go to hell. And who made
so
hell?
threatened.
Who made hell?
I'm not sure about that.
Who made the
Didn't your
rules on
God
who
create
gets to
the
go to hell?
universe?
Yeah, was hell something else that
I
also
think-
needed its own Big Bang, or did God make everything?
I'm not sure about hell, who created hell, but I think heaven that is created by God.
So hell
And
just
really quickly,
popped up?
who made the rules by which we are judged and whether or not we go to heaven or hell? Who made the rules on that?
Of course, the Creator.
And who decides at the end of the day what casts the final judgment, decides whether or not those rules apply? Who is that?
I think it's not really God's judgment. If you do bad things, if you are a bad person, literally bad person, I think it's not God who sends you to hell. I think you are the one who send yourself to
Right,
hell,
but you said
not
that
God.
it's God's rules on who's good and bad, right?
Yeah, but if you do bad things,
So-
that is on you.
So just to be
not on God.
clear, when you say that we will be saved, but we get salvation, What you're saying is that God is saving us from herself. She won't punish us. She won't put us in hell. She will instead be nice that day and put us in heaven instead. So it's like a mob boss saying, if you don't pay me protection money, I'm going to beat the hell out of you and break up your store. And if you pay them, then they won't beat the hell out of you and they won't smash up your store. Aren't they nice? Aren't they charitable? That's called racketeering, Jacob. It's a problem.
No, but I think it's not God's will to send you to hell. I think it's your own actions. You're responsible for it.
Okay. I choose not to go to hell, Jacob. Ball's in God's court now. What's she going to do?
You can't just say that, right? You need to manifest that in action.
Here's
we're doing pretty good action here of being relatively decent people, and all we have to do is say, hey, we're doing good stuff around here. We're trying to even combat bad stuff out there, often perpetuated by religious fundies, and we would rather not go into a sulfur fire lake. So if we end up there, who put us there?
It's yourself. Yourself. You're the one who put yourself there.
I just said I don't want to go. I'm not going to go. I'd have to be forced there. Who's forcing me there?
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's not God.
So if I'm not doing it and God's not doing it, I guess I'll be immortal. I'll just hang out here.
Yeah,
no one's going to take me there. All right,
no one's taking us to hell, Jacob. We don't have any problem with hell. We're not going, and you said God's not putting us there, so we're not going.
You can't just get to choose, right? I think you know how it works.
Why not?
I thought you just said that we do choose.
No, you choose it by who you really are, what you do in life,
if
you're good or bad.
Go to hell.
Yeah, who I really am
good things
is.
And I don't want to go to hell. There we go.
You're just saying you identify as
I'm doing good things.
You can be.
I'm trying to,
but that doesn't mean. But that doesn't mean you're a good person. Genuinely, right?
I have a question.
You can't just.
I have a question.
Right.
Hitler was a devout Christian. If he repented on his deathbed, does he get to go to heaven?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. Fuck your God. Again, there's no actual criteria.
I'm gonna. I think at this point, if Hitler is in heaven, I'll take hell. Then at that point,
I don't want to be in heaven.
Apparently, going to go to hell.
Yeah, dude. Like that's this isn't about being a good person. This is about worship. God doesn't actually care if you're a good person. God cares whether or not you suck his dick before you die. That's the only thing God cares about.
But you're saying a person cannot change? We can change, right?
Well, you just said Hitler gets to go to heaven, so I just don't even want to participate in this thing anymore. You were basically shown it's poison, and this shows why I have little antipathy, that any sort of good feelings towards religion and theology, things like that, because this is the sort of shit we hear. While we would actually like to figure out how to make things actually better, rather than make excuses for why God gets to be a mafioso and we should be worshiping him and feel like privileged to worship such a terrible creature. So sorry, no, thank you for that. On the other hand, ultimately you called in trying to show a proof for some kind of God, and if you could show some sort of deism is true, all right, I won't have a problem believing that. But telling me it's the God of the Bible who's going to send people to hell and who's going to save Hitler, but not the Jews he gassed? Sorry, I'm done with that God. Goodbye. Truth.
Also, pardon me. Thank you, chat, for calling me out. I misgendered God. I said his dick, her dick. Pardon me. I'm not sucking her dick before I go to heaven.
Right. I think it's just you guys just hate the idea of a God. I think that's what.
But we already answered that question, Jacob. See, here's the thing about this is someday in your life, you're going to have to start having an honest conversation with yourself. You're going to have to actually answer these questions. You've brought up bullshit argument after bullshit argument, which is crappy, tired, lazy apologetics that we on this side of the table have heard a million times before. And now you're at this point where you just keep saying you hate God. And we've expressed we don't. We don't think your God is real. We don't hate the idea of a God or anything like that. We would believe in a God if it was real. But the God you're offering us is a monster. So we wouldn't worship it, right? I
Or-
know real
Not a
people
monster.
in the real world who I know exist that I don't like and I don't support because I don't appreciate what they do and what they think. Same thing goes for your God. I don't care if she's real or not. If she is, I'll say she's real. But if she is, if she is real, she has a lot to answer for. And I don't care about her judgments because I refuse to adhere to the judgment system of a being whose sins far outweigh my own.
So you're saying a being that saved sent billions of people to heaven is a monster? Come on.
And people, and also sent billions to hell, and also watches as 24,000 people starve to death every single day right now, and also sits idly by and watches every rape, every murder, every case of cancer, doesn't do a damn thing about it, and also has a morality system that isn't actually contingent on morality at all, but only cares about how much you praise her. You have to worship her. You have to idolize her. You have to stroke her ego. And then you get this supposed salvation. Otherwise, she allows you, whether or not she sends you or not, she has the power to take you out of hell, and she doesn't. She allows you to be tortured for all eternity because you committed the sin of not stroking her ego. That's not a good God. That's not a good person. That is not morality. That is not justice. That is arrogance and evil. And I don't want anything to do with it. If your God is real, she's a monster. And I don't want anything to do with her. I don't care how many people she brings up to her theme park in the sky. If she watches child rape happen and doesn't stop it, she's a monster.
Right. Let's say you're a father of your son. Do you only do good things? Don't you discipline?
Do I torture them forever? No. So guess what? Everyone you know is better than the God you worship. And that's a pretty terrible thing to believe about the creator of the universe, is more evil than any person you could name.
I'm not sure about that. You saved billions of lives.
Does
and
anyone on earth torture anyone else forever?
Oh, where did you get forever? I think God is not
How
torturing
long
forever.
does hell last?
No, I think the hell that's not God's will. It's your will. It's will of people.
I just want to throw out here is that I just brought up child rape, and your immediate response was, well, don't you discipline children? How many children do you discipline by raping them, Jacob?
No, I'm not saying that. It's just the analogy is you need to have some degree of discipline to your
Do you
kids,
think
right?
that rape is an appropriate way to discipline children?
No, of course no.
Okay, so then why does God let it happen?
But because God He does not do this proactively, just interfering with it. Because we have given free will, right? Because He won't just.
What about the child's free will? Right. What about the child's free will who doesn't want to be raped? Does their free will not matter?
It does matter.
So why doesn't God protect it?
It's just God is not only the character in the Bible, right? There are a lot of
who's the most powerful character in the Bible?
God, of course.
So is God powerful enough to stop pedophiles from raping children?
I'm not sure about that because what I've said is
you don't know.
There is also
you don't know if she's powerful enough for that. She can create the whole universe, but she can't slap a man who's trying to molest a child. Can't stop it. Just has to sit there and watch. And then if that guy says sorry later, he gets to go to heaven along with Hitler and you.
No, I'm not sure about that. What I've said earlier again, God does not interfere proactively with things like that. But I'm not saying that God allowed that.
The pedophile repents and becomes a Christian and goes to heaven with Hitler and you, and the child who is so messed up from having been sexually assaulted becomes an atheist and becomes angry and bitter, and that child then goes to hell for all eternity. That sounds like justice to you, Jacob?
But I think if you're really a genuine
That's a
good
yes or
person
no
and
question,
you-
Jacob. That's a yes or no question, Jacob.
yeah, what I'm saying is, if you're genuinely a good person, then you go to.
That's a yes or
You know
no
what you're
question, Jacob.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
You don't know whether or not you have an opinion?
What I'm saying is, anyone.
That's a
let's let
yes or
everybody
no
else
question,
look in
Jacob. Do you have an opinion about whether or not the situation I just gave is good or bad? Do you have an opinion at all about whether or not that qualifies as justice?
Not sure. God knows that. I'm not sure about. But what I'm saying is,
You're not sure if you have an opinion.
yeah, I'm actually not sure about it. But
I'm
what I'm saying
asking,
is,
do you have an opinion? That's a yes or no question.
I actually don't have an opinion on that because, yeah, what I've
So you're
said,
50-50
I
on a
just wanna-
child being raped and then having to go to hell for being bitter about being raped? You're 50-50 if
50-50
that's
on
a
that
just
one.
thing to happen?
Just not really sure about it. I mean, that's a complex question, right?
because I'm pretty sure God is not the one who allowed that. He did not allow that for sure. It's just it's it's just for me.
Wait a minute. So you said God didn't allow it? Does she not know everything?
Yeah, he does know everything.
Okay, so if she knows everything and she's all powerful, then she did allow it. She knew it was happening and she could have stopped it, but she didn't, which means she allowed it. That's what allow means.
Yeah, but again, we have free will, and that's not how it
Jacob,
works.
let's change the situation slightly. I see someone who's about to rape a child. Do I stop that person, or do I say, hey, this person's got free will. I can't do anything about it?
What's the moral option, Jacob?
Violate that person's free will or allow boy buggering? And I should be using
as
much
a person,
harsher terms for what we're describing here.
as a person, of course, I would stop. But I'm not God.
Well, guess
Oh,
what?
good.
That
As a
makes me
person,
more moral than your God.
Yep. That means everybody on this call is a better person than your God is, because we would all stop rape.
I think you're just confused with little things that just.
No, I'm actually pretty clear-minded about this. I would stop a rape in progress. God doesn't.
Yeah.
Pretty clear where this goes and what this implies. And I don't think you like where it's going, Jacob. And that's why you're really uncomfortable. And I understand that discomfort, but you do need to be honest with yourself. Clearly, you can see how much of a pretzel this is putting you in.
Yeah, I do understand, but I think it's God's way of giving us
Jacob,
free will. I think that for me, just
Jacob,
the
I
best
think here's the
explanation
thing.
for that.
You need to realize that this argument about free will is so bad, it's actually making it so your God is so terrible that not only is everyone in the world better than this God, and no one in the world could be worse than your God. And conversely, though, on the plus side is, Jacob, you are better than your God.
Yeah, I get the
And
point.
now think about
but
that.
I think
You are more moral than the God that you worship. And that should be either an exciting thing for you about how amazing you are, or one hell of an indictment against the creator of the universe. But it is definitely not a get off the hook for the Almighty.
Yeah. So I haven't thought about that until now, but yeah. Anyways, I'll be going now. And thank you for the call.
Jacob, we had a rough tumble here, but I hope you did get something out of this. And come back and we can have further discussion, because we think you're a good person. We think you're better than the God you're trying to defend. And I think if you reflect on it, you're going to at least make adjustments to what you think about God. Even if you don't abandon that, you're going to grow from this, I think. So I hope you call in and tell us where you want to go next.
All right. Yeah. I appreciate the input.
Bye-bye.
All right. So
Good night.
thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow. I'm the executive producer of The Line. And at night, I sneak into Matt Dillahunty's house and I trade his cereals for other cereals. He comes out and he's like, wait, these are cereals I buy, but I swear I had different cereals. Anyway, would you like to support this channel or any specific show? You can do so over on Patreon or in channel memberships. There are special tiers for special shows or for the channel at large, and it helps us expand programming as well as hopefully very soon launch it in podcast form. Now, also, if you'd like to support, you can like, you can subscribe, you can leave a comment or a super thanks, which is a special highlighted comment that you pay for. Those are fun. And, screw the algorithm, go check out something over here, I suppose. Boy, I hope I can still put those icons there, because if I can't, this is going to look really stupid. I'm going to go buy some Cocoa Puffs and switch out Matt's mini wheats now.